Well, welcome to another episode of Coronation. I'm Naomi White in Brisbane, Australia, and this morning I'm joined by Shivani Gupta in Brisbane as well. How are you, Shivani?
I'm well, thanks, Naomi. How about yourself?
I'm excellent, thank you. It's a beautiful day here. Shivani, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, personally, I grew up in India till I was 11 years of age, and then my parents and my younger brother, we moved to Australia. It was through the 80s, it was a recession, pretty tough time, and luckily Dad got a job, and I kind of grew up following his footsteps, becoming an engineer and working in the corporate sector for a little while in leadership roles. Really didn't love being an engineer, so I left and moved into other roles in sales and marketing and into other leadership roles, and then decided that I would start out my own business, and that was 17 years ago. Personally, married to a beautiful Aussie guy, Scott, who is probably more Indian than I am, Naomi. He's my vegan yoga meditation, studying Indian scriptures at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
My white Aussie husband, who's actually more Indian than me, and we have two beautiful kids who are a 9-year-old boy and 11-year-old daughter. And last year moved to Brisbane, and so really enjoying the weather here most of the time and really enjoying space.
So do you think it was a good thing that you moved here before COVID-19?
Oh, absolutely. It's something that we thought about for 4 or 5 years on and off, but our life was pretty great in Newcastle at the same time, just north of Sydney. And I think, it was a chance happening. I had a girlfriend who had just found out that she had stage 4 cancer, and I actually ran into her on a trip back from Brisbane to Newcastle. And that was at the beginning of last year. And that really was a sign, as I call it, from the universe saying, are you going to move or are you going to keep delaying your decision? So she was a real, a catalyst for us to say, hey, what are we waiting for? Unfortunately, she passed away just before Christmas last year. And, but she gave us that gift, I think, to say, well, stop talking about it. Either do it or stop talking about it.
Yeah, that's great advice. So you're now an entrepreneur and a speaker and a mentor, is that correct?
Yeah, I have two businesses. So I have a wellness business. I am a franchisee in a wellness business. So I run organic day spas, and in that I have a team of almost 50 people. And I also have had a speaking and mentoring business for almost 20 years. So I speak at different conferences and I mentor leaders who are either entrepreneurs or are working in sort of medium to larger size corporations.
And what do you speak on? What's your keynote?
I've got a couple of them. So one is around wellness of people. The other is tough love for employees and how managers and leaders really need to love their employees a lot more, which is not a word often we relate to people at work, but also be a lot more tougher and be a bit more direct and set boundaries better so that their productivity is better and we can also manage less stress and produce more work in our workplaces.
Yeah, I love it. So how's this COVID-19 situation affected you and your world?
Well, there's been goods and bads. From a work side, it's mainly been pretty dark, to be honest, Naomi, with being forced to shut down, and it absolutely made sense at an Australian and a global level to be able to shut down spas where we are in contact with clients. But, in business of almost 20 years, that was probably one of the toughest days I've had of ringing 47 staff. And, I rang one of my employees who's 36 weeks pregnant on the day I rang her. She was crying, bawling her eyes out, as was I, then ringing up the apprentice who left school to join us. It was 47 of those phone calls with tears and lots of boxes of tissues in between. And that was a really tough day in business to be able to stand down so many people who, due to no fault of their own, who are excellent workers and very passionate about what they do, having to do that because of COVID. The speaking business on the other side and passionate people, it's been a bit the same. Obviously, all conferences are on hold. There's a couple of things that have gone virtually, and I've still continued to do some mentoring one-on-one and also deliver some webinars, etc., to clients. On the family level, it's been outstanding. Our kids who are 9 and 11, as I said earlier, think that COVID is not great for the world, but it's fantastic for our family. So we have a daily schedule that everybody has in terms of what time they have Zoom calls. My husband Scott's working downstairs. I'm working from my home office. And we do a schedule to work out when the handball competition is. It's at 10:30 this morning. So we have morning tea and coffees and a handball competition. We're going for daily walks. We're having all our meals together. You know, Scott's not travelling, I'm not travelling. I mean, it's quite incredible and a beautiful gift from a family side, but work side really tough. Not sure really where to pivot, and just not sure where the future is and how long this wave is of COVID. And, you know, when I've got text messages coming from staff and different things are opening up, I don't have the answers for them. So I'm just trying to engage them every couple of days and let them know what the updates are. I mean, the JobKeep program in Australia with the government will help, but, you know, that only applies to about half my staff, where they'll get a salary from me through that scheme, but the other half, you know, don't. So it's tough.
Yeah, that's really tough as a business owner. So what advice have you got? Because you're walking one of the hardest paths at the moment through COVID-19 in Australia. So what advice have you got for others?
Well, you know, when I'm trying to do homeschooling as well as, and, you know, luckily our kids are not 4 and 5 years of age, but they still require quite a bit of input. And still there's quite a lot of work to be done, even though the businesses are shut, in terms of following up grants and staff and landlords. And there's still some clients and, you know, deliveries to be done, and fitting in all the different little bits of exercise and everything else for the family. I'm trying to shift my mindset. I guess that's one of the things I do in my work with others, but I'm trying to shift my mindset. So I've come up with a different acronym for COVID. I'm saying, well, I'm a lot calmer for the C, and there's opportunities coming out that are not completely clear to me, but there are absolutely some opportunities that are coming out. It's also a really good time to reset my values for the V, and say, well, how do I want to live? Who do I want to be? And it's really, I'm having an identity crash in the eye of COVID and just working out who I am. So it's an opportunity to work out, you know, who do I want to be now, and what do I want to do differently? And the D for me is decisions. So what decisions am I going to take differently? How am I going to live my life differently? But, you know, are there some projects that I've always wanted to do? Are there some courses I've always wanted to study? What decisions am I going to make that I start to look at things really differently? And the other thing for me as a working mum and as a working woman, which you would, you know, so appreciate because you're in a very similar boat as well, is, you know, how do we manage and how do I manage my self-esteem each day? So I'm just trying to do little things for myself each day. One of my favourite things to do is just go and have a beautiful cup of coffee. And so I still venture out for about 20 minutes, half an hour each day, and just go and get a really nice barista coffee, you know, for my $4.70 for my almond latte. And that just gives me a little bit of pleasure. Or just, you know, having a look at the end of the day and thinking about, well, what have I actually achieved today? I've even started an Excel spreadsheet of all the different jobs I've done, and if we outsourced it, what it would cost. So, you know, varnishing the table I worked out was going to cost $350. And so I'm doing these little things, I guess, to trick my mind to look at that I'm still of value from a work perspective, even though my income is reduced drastically and in my one business to zero. And you know, feeling of value and having those conversations with myself to say, you know, you are of value, you're doing the best, you're supporting all your staff, even though they've been stood down, and you're doing the best that you can. And, you know, despite the unknown of, you know, what will be, I mean, if the rent will still continue to come in at some point, I will absolutely run out of cash in the next month, and that then has big financial implications for our family. And, you know, just trying to live each day and not think about what will happen if the worst case scenario happens in a month's time. And so just trying to be present and enjoy each day a little bit. But it is challenging, and that's the guidance that I've been trying to pass to people, to say, look, I don't have the answer, but, you know, every book we read on mindfulness, every course I've ever done on spirituality, or sat with a variety of meditation teachers, they've all said live in the present. And COVID certainly is teaching me that. I thought I was pretty good at it, but maybe not. You know, maybe COVID's really teaching me to say, look, really, you have zero control of what happens this afternoon. So just, you know, have this conversation with Naomi now, and then go and get your cup of coffee, and then finish those 3 emails that you had to do, and then have your game of handball, and just really try and enjoy those moments a lot more. Because the fact that my kids are loving COVID so much, not for the world, but for our family, is a real lesson. You know, we're running around doing all these things, and maybe some of them in the future are unnecessary.
So it'll be fascinating at the end of this what the new normal looks like when everybody comes out of this period, because everyone's having a different experience, aren't they? You know, depending on what their individual circumstances are and where they are in life. But one thing's for sure, the kids are loving it, or most kids are loving it, and the pets are loving it. And clearly the animals of the planet are loving it because they're coming out in force, not to mention the butterflies. So,
Absolutely. There are so many of them around at the moment. And you know, there's always that duality, isn't there? There's always the beautiful things that happen and not so great things that happen. And maybe they just don't happen so quickly and so frequently as they are through COVID, that we have that opportunity to notice. And I think it would be very sad if we all went back to the way that we were in our crazy business. I think that would be a bit sad. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to go, well, what's not working out of my life and what can I discard through COVID and live a little bit differently.
That's amazing, Shivani. I can see why you're such an amazing and in-demand mentor. There's so much wisdom there. So thank you for sharing so authentically and giving me some time out of your schedule today. I really appreciate it. Fantastic advice. Love your acronym for COVID. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thanks so much, Naomi.
Thanks, Shivani.